So thanks everyone for sticking with us. We're going to now start the second part of our session today. This session is going to be about the topic of quote unquote leveling the playing field. So what we saw in the previous discussion is that host country governments are required to do a lot more under the Paris period than they were during their Kyoto period. And there are a lot of different skill sets, policies, but also technical infrastructure that was raised that is required in this new era of carbon trading. So, one of the topics or ways that we can help to lay to create more equity between buyers and sellers in the market under these new conditions is to discuss how sort of the developing countries or how can benefit from resources from buyers that could help them set up those systems and build those capacities. So Fenella, please take it from here.
Thank you very much, Marshall. Again, excellent emceeing. Right, well, thank you. Luckily, everyone else has changed, so that's the interesting bit of the panel to watch rather than me. The marvelous thing is that, again, we have so many countries here to talk, representing both sides of the market, both buyers and sellers. So I am joined on the panel by Hari Sharma, who is the Undersecretary in the Ministry of Forest and Environment from Nepal. And next to him, I also have Mr. Chuck Paris, the Undersecretary of State for the Ministry of Environment from Cambodia. Thank you. And next to him, a very dear friend and regular visitor to GGGI, Mr. Paik Dida, or Dida Gardera, who is a Senior Advisor for Connectivity, Service Development and Natural Resources within the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs in Indonesia. And I think the length of the title goes with the complexity of the country in size and topography. And last but absolutely not least, bookending the panel here is Ms. Guri Storas, who is the Deputy Director General within the Ministry of Climate and Environment from Norway. So with that, same process as before, we have given all of the panelists a question to try and shape their intervention around and give us an idea of what the challenges are and what they are doing with regard to leveling the playing field. And if I can just give a tiny bit of context, what do we mean by leveling the playing field? Some of you who've been watching and following Article 6 work at GGGI over the past couple of years may well remember a survey that we carried out in 2022, where we spoke to all our members and we said, are you interested in doing trades under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement? And they said, generally the answer was yes, but. And the but was around the idea of, we don't know how, we don't know what's needed, we don't have the capacity, and also very importantly, we don't feel it's an equal bargaining table. The buyers have all the information, the buyers know more than us, the buyers are more skilled than us, the buyers have done this before and we haven't in some cases. So the leveling up of the playing field for us means ensuring that all sides to a transaction have equal access to information, have an equal chance to learn and understand about the trade they may be getting into, and are supported in doing any transaction by organizations such as GGGI, but not exclusively ourselves at all. So if I may then, I would like to turn, Hari, perhaps to you first, with the question, under the Clean Development Mechanism, which was the trading mechanism under the Kyoto Protocol, the technical, legal assistance and capacity building took too long to arrive. And many countries either did not fully benefit from the market or were not capable of engaging with buyers on carbon on an equal footing. And it was generally due to lack of technical expertise in carbon transactions. So what do we need to do to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes again? How do we do it better under Article 6? Over to you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. What experience we gained from the studying of the Kyoto Protocol? We faces many challenges, especially talking about the policy. We have to internalize the protocol into our policy framework, into our act and regulation. And first things, before internalizing the policy, first we had to aware, or we had to sensitize the policy bodies. Unless and until the political body gets sensitized, the program will not be on mainstream. So first thing, we have to sensitize the political body. And secondly, about the sharing of benefit. Okay, from carbon trade, the benefited, it means beneficiaries who is contributing for the reduction of emission, that have to be, it means contributed. It means government have to be allocated certain fund to the ground beneficiaries. For that, we feel some problem like benefit sharing mechanism. We allocated around 15% to the beneficiaries who contributed for the reduction of emission. For that, we face the problem. And also talking about the institutional mechanism. We do not have priority list. It means we had only negative and positive list, but among that list, we do not have any priority list. It means looking after the nature of project and size of the project, we had faced the problem. So we had to be made the national priority program with priority ranking in each sector. We realize that one. And also for the operational manual to implement the project, we had to be made new joint coordination committee. We realize that one to overcome from the dispute settlement and other force measures reason. These are the things we have to be we have to be improved in the coming project. Okay, thank you. This is my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry. Okay, may I next pass to Mr. Chuk Paris to ask from the Cambodian point of view, what can we do better to help set up under Article 6?
Okay, thank you for question and very good morning, very good evening to ladies and gentlemen.
Where you are, half the people online, don't worry, it's morning for them.
Going to other people, from the far online. Regarding the Article 6, Cambodia first, government are supporting very much on the carbon neutralities, on the climate change actions. It is a government positions that we have a strong commitment on that. That's why, we just released the so-called long-term strategy for carbon neutrality by 2050. And we also have the climate change strategic planning, and NDC has been submitted already. So it means that, the policy, the commitment from the government are in place, I would say. And the second point is the good thing to Cambodia is we have a DP, the partner, closely cooperate with us. Cambodia, we are working hand in hand to tackle the climate change impacts, both mitigation and adaptations. The challenge that I see just a process, just the process is a bit take time. That I would say that if we can simplify the process, make the tool, all the tool a bit simplified, and then take not much time to take. I would say it is good to us to liberate, to do the carbon markets, and then to respond to climate change efficiently. So far, GGI, thank you to GGI for helping us to develop the operational manual. And then I would say that this tool could be used as our, technical and legal assistant in order to inform the buyer, potential buyer, to come to us, to buy, to work with us on the carbon trading. So you may know that NDC, we have several sectors. We have forest, we have energy, transport, and waste. So that we may pick up each sector that could be do the pilots program or project that use the operational manual assisted by the GGI to be as a pilot, and then if it is workable, successful, and then we can expand our pilots project to the across the country if possible. So I will say that the challenge is a process. It's a process, and then I would say also that if we can simplify the tool, all the technical and legal tool a bit, don't too much, don't, how to say, requirements so much, so that some country like Cambodia, we are sometimes some requirement we cannot make it. So make it simple, reasonable, and then can accept by all the party, by the implementer, and then by the buyer as well together. Otherwise, if strict, very strict, too strict in terms of condition or requirement or principle, it is difficult for us to to follow. That's why we have to understand each other. We have to talk and then work together in the proper way, simple way, not make it complicated. It is my suggestion, and thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And it's funny, if traders sat in the negotiations, I think it would all be done and dusted a lot quicker, but not everyone would be happy maybe. So it's a tricky balance of sitting in a negotiating room and trying to make everybody happy often has the negative consequence of making things more complicated. And you point out very validly that this slows it down. You maybe can't comply with the regulations, or it's too expensive, or some projects. And I commend the way, as you've described, that Cambodia is looking at multiple different markets, voluntary market, compliance market under Article 6, look at different sectors, pilot, test it, does it work? If it does, carry on. So I think that's certainly a good idea, and see if it fits first. So next, if I can pass to Dida Gardera of the CMEA in Indonesia. Pak Dida, can you share where are you now, and how are we going to make Article 6 work in Indonesia?
Yeah. Thank you, Supaya, for inviting me again for sharing and exchange knowledge information. Yeah, very fortunate Indonesia benefit as well for CDM in the Protocol Kyoto regime, even not as smart as Indonesian size in terms of population or the territories. So that's why right now we preparing all the modalities from the regulation. We have already in the law level, the highest regulation in Indonesia. We have set in tax law about the carbon tax, and we engaging with many countries partner and international organization partner, including Triple GI, for exercising all the instrument of carbon pricing. We are doing the voluntary carbon market. We just launched the carbon exchange a month ago. And then now with Triple GI and Norwegian government and also Swedish government, we are exercising Article 6.2. And hopefully if in Dubai establish the governance for Article 6.4, we can also exercise this Article 6.4. But yeah, and even in our region, together colleagues from Cambodia and other countries' colleagues, we are developing the carbon neutrality for ASEAN. We've tried to find the commonalities and also how we can accelerate our target together as a region. Yeah, hopefully with all engagement and exercising, I think we can have a mutual benefit either for the seller, such Indonesia, and also for potential buyer like Norwegian or other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Dida. And I think it's certainly, well, if I'm to believe the CNBC advert I have recently been finding on my television in the mornings, it's Indonesia has potential for 75% of the global carbon credits. So yeah, I think the voluntary market and exchange is certainly doing a very good job. And there's an awful lot of activity happening in the country, and it is extremely complex to try and work together a carbon tax, a voluntary scheme, where there's maybe an offsetting against your tax in your own country, plus international trading, plus a potential ETS. So many different instruments. And you may have caught that one of the toolbox guidebooks will actually speak to how do different carbon pricing instruments work together, or work in parallel, if not together. And I think they will be turning to Indonesia for learning and case studies of what to do, what not to do. So I'm going to turn to Guri now, but maybe a slightly different question for you, actually, as you sit on the other end of the market. So one thing that we've found as we go around the world, and even governments that say, yes, we've got our governance framework in place, and then it's, well, that fits one particular situation for one type of buyer, but not others. So at the moment, there's all a multiplicity of buyers approaching countries, each requesting slightly different rules to fit their buying requirements. And how approving and authorizing mitigation outcomes at host country level should look. So how do you see the development of this particular challenge, and what could buyers do from their side to alleviate this problem? Kostia, thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here. To be honest, I think we'll see this problem for some time to come. The market under Article 6 is, as we've been talking about, new, and many countries are still in their piloting face. Part of the challenge might come from variations in the program designs, where some buyers are interested in project level cooperation and others on sectoral or policy level. However, as this market is maturing, I think it is important for buyers to coordinate among themselves, to try to align requirements when it comes to domestic rules of approving and authorizing mitigation outcomes. And there is already progress on that. Norway and other countries are coordinating already. But in this process, it is very important for buyer countries, or I think it should be important at least for buyer countries, to be attentive to seller countries' needs and their experiences when designing programs. And from Norway's perspective, the way we look at this, it's we're open to several ways of authorizing mitigation outcomes. I think countries are differently set up. They have different ministries, different responsibilities, like under different names, and it should really be up to the seller country to do that. For us, it doesn't really matter. What matters, though, is that you follow the Article 6 rules, and that is transparent. So that's what we require, that we know who is authorizing, but we will not say this and this entity has to do it and it has to be done in this exact way.
Perfect. Thank you, Guri. And I think, yes, it's a balance. I think there are two, as long as both those approaches are done, I think that is what we're calling leveling the playing field and having a conversation equally. I fear all buyers in the room together just deciding amongst themselves is maybe going to create a further challenge, as Mr. Paris said, with complexity, because you will automatically go for the most conservative out of a discussion of a room of 10 people. It's go for the safest, and that's usually got more complexity. So a challenge there, and how do we make it simple? So I have a follow-up question, which I will come back to, but I desperately want to speak to an old friend, actually. So I know that there is an old colleague of ours called Stefan Gill, who used to head our program with Sweden and Nepal, who is now with Carbon Limits, and apparently still, hopefully, has his hand up. So is there a way that we can, I have no idea whether this will work, so bear with us a second, Stefan. Can we get him online to ask a question? Okay, I think Stefan, fire away with your question. Oops, no, we're not hearing you. Not hearing. Shouldn't it? Oh, did we lose him?
Hello, I'm very sorry to interrupt the meeting. I think that was a mistake. I didn't actually have
Oh, no. Okay, clearly far too keen, Stefan. It's too early in Ireland. You should still be sitting here in Seoul, where it's coming on 7 o'clock. Okay.
Very sorry to interrupt.
No, don't worry at all. Okay, then okay. Another question that came in online, and I'd maybe put this to Cambodia and Norway to get two different views. You're saying, Mr. Paris, about the demystifying and making the Article 6 frameworks less complicated. Can you give a couple of examples where it's, you found it's particularly Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's another thing. And it's a real challenge. And likewise, Guri, any way you can in those conversations you're having amongst buying countries, how we can maybe look at trying to simplify Article 6. So maybe Mr. Paris.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President. Article 6, Article 6 mentioned clearly is about the three approaches. One's on the public and private sectors, and number two, G2Gs, and number three is about the emission for the global emission. It is like payment, CCC. There are three approaches. To me, for the last one, result-based payment is a bit complicated because of it's not easy to coordinate with the 187 country. It's not easy, It's a nature. It's a nature. It's not easy to talk. That's why we chose the first one first as a pilot. As a pilot, as our approach. Result voluntary carbon market for REDD+ projects. We doing the REDD+ project since 2016, and then we got the first sale from Disney World. It is, change Cambodia from the chopping tree for revenue, and now we can keeping tree for revenue. This one's a paradigm shift for Cambodia. That the government of Cambodia, we are proud of that. But it is the first time that since 2016 that we can move to the positive way. So that we still seeing that the voluntary carbon market for REDD+ still workable. That's why we pursue. In the long run, if we see that the G2G is good enough, so that we can jump into the G2G because we want to expand as well our program and projects. Now in Cambodia, we have a pilot project with Singapore on that part, G2G. We're using the operational manual as is by the GGI. That we try to pilot, to test the project, but with the cook stove, the energy side, even is it work? Yes, it's workable, and then we can expand it. So I would say is that the complicated things is within the Article 6 on the result-based payment. So many assistants, Cambodia, we have UN REDD program, we have a FCPF program, phase 1 and 2, but still talking negotiation. We don't see any investment project in place. This one is our problem. That's why I would say that if we can, make it efficiently, cutting time, because Article 6 starting in Paris Agreement on climate change since 2015 till now, 8 years already, but still talking, and then mobilize funding $100 billion a year, never happened. It is. I'm sorry that I'm say to the point. That's why we have to how to say it, reduce the complexity, reduce time, and then mobilize funding so that climate change action can be done. Otherwise, you see now more severe in terms of climate change impact, right? Flood, Cambodia, we got a severe flood, severe drought, and then storm, storm so heavy. It is, loss and damage a lot in the country. If we pursue, if we just talking and then no action, how come in the future? The climate change, global warming is higher and higher. It is our disaster in the future if we don't, are starting now fastly. So it is depend on the multilateral talking, how to cutting the process, simplify the process, to make things done first, done fastly, done efficiently. It is the point that I would like to raise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honestly, you fired up the inner banker in me of just let's get on with it and do a trade. And I must hold myself back. Certainly. So, Guri, I think quickly you must talk me down from that ledge. But over to you.
Well, I was planning to have a kind of try to have a positive approach to your question, saying, well, it is challenging, but that is part of the reason why my team find it so interesting to work on this, because you get a new challenge and you're like, okay, a new problem. How do we solve this? And in dialogue with partners. But I think Mr. Paris here had a really good point. We have to have action now. It is urgent. We don't have time for too many detours. I think Mr. Paris also said a key word here, and that is piloting. I think even though we are in a rush, we shouldn't make it too difficult for ourselves, making the projects too big from the very beginning. Norway has been engaged in various piloting efforts since 2016, and we're still saying that we're in this piloting phase, which I think we will probably be for some time to come still. Another important aspect is, of course, capacity building, and that is kind of what we're talking about, leveling the playing field. The capacity building also for ourselves, as we said, it is challenging also for us. But I think for Norway, like since we've been engaged in this since 2016, the capacity building has been important, readiness assistance, and to try to build up all these systems that we've been talking about.
Super. Thank you very much, Guri. And yes, One Nation on piloting, and I think you'll agree, both of you will agree with me, is it doesn't mean that we're doing something tiny. It just means we're doing it for the first time, and we may not do it the same way every time afterwards. So it's the first try it and see. So to my mind, that's almost like a learning and doing approach of there's no way we're going to be able to there's no way we will have remembered everything. So we might just as well have a go, and then we'll work out what we forgot. And if we didn't need it in the first place, then okay, we don't need it going forward either. So I think that's very valid. And the capacity building, and I think, Guri, thank you for being honest that the buyers also are finding, that they need the capacity built as well. And in fact, we had a very interesting time. The end of last year, we had someone from a buyer country with us for a short while, and there was something came up in the team here with our team in GGGI, and it was one of those questions where the rules had said you have option 1, 2, or 3, but there's no answer. It's like whichever one you like, really. So we said, well, what should we recommend? What should we say to countries? If you do it this way, that's the benefit, that's the positive, that's the negative. And if you do it that way, that's positive, that's the negative. So how do we explain this to countries we're supporting? And then literally there was nothing to refer to. So it meant 10 of us sat in a room with them and said, okay, how do you reckon we should go about this one? And the team literally brainstormed it because there are no right answers. And so we came up with some thoughts on it. Afterwards, they said, that was great. Just there's no real answer and you're just working it out at this stage. But yeah, there are just showing how early it is for everybody in this market. So I want to turn to maybe Harry and Pakdida, if I may turn to the two of you and just ask one last question, which is, how can leveling the playing field in terms of capacity for market participation benefit you as a seller country? So when it comes to, rather than the amorphous blob that is capacity building, what are the specific things that you're thinking, gosh, if we had someone who could help us with that, or if we had more people who understood this, What is it? What is the particular area where you think that would help you do more in the market sooner? Harry, if I turn to you first.
Thank you, Fenala. Regarding the capacity building, first we have to go by mapping, stakeholder mapping. We will be the potential MOPA signing party. And also, we already talked about the government stakeholder. We are mainly focusing on the government stakeholder only, but we have to go for the private stakeholder mapping also. So we have to first make sector-wide private entity assessment. It means baseline survey we have to be done. Then we can go by potential project from the private sector. That would be more effective, because government role only to enabling role, only to facilitate, only to monitor. But project have to be implemented by the private sector. So we have to go by sectoral assessment of private sector. Which sector or which private sector is willing to do the project. And also for the capacity development of especially we are focusing to develop the capacity of government service only by this time. But first thing what I experienced by now is always until we build the capacity of legislator, it means parliamentary body, they will not sensitize the cases of market or sensitize the opportunities. Until unless they get the sensitization, we will not make any law, any regulation. So the things will not be coming in implementation. So these are the point. And also we have to focus for the capacity development of it means internal consultant. It means to make the project proposal, we have to build the capacity of it means in-house consultant. It means regional, not only regional and international, but we have to create the platform for the project designing from the national private body. It means consultant. Okay, these are the points. Thank you.
Wow. So that's our shopping list. Pretty clear there. Thank you. All valid. Yeah. Unless you understand, unless you have the project proponents understanding what they can do, it doesn't make much sense just writing down a report that says you can do green hydrogen if there are no project developers who can actually develop a green hydrogen project. And the wider government, yes, you're trying to put in legislation. If the Ministry of Legal doesn't understand, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs hasn't got a clue what Article 6 is, it's going to be very difficult to get that legislation. And as you say, the evaluators and the project proposal writers within government. So, Hatida, your thoughts on this as well? Would you agree? Would you add to the list?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, capacity building is a continuous process. I think that we have to not only for the seller, also we mentioned for the buyer as well. They need to develop the common understanding. That is not, yeah, of course, it's not easy. Like for example, we have experience for result-based payment more than 10 years, but after that, after we have find the tune, right now we are running 4 schemes for RD Plus. One, of course, with Norway, and the other with World Bank. There is 2 by CF, SCPF, and also the others through GCF. This is a long process. And for Article 6, let's say the tricky one is about the the corresponding adjustment. Yeah, since all country have their own target, their own NDC, so we have to securing the how we can achieve the NDC, and then if we can spare some potential emission reduction, it could be it can be sold to other countries. And also the carbon pricing, the Article 6 of Paris Agreement is important to also to support the investment for mitigation actions. I think to some extent can contribute for the project become feasible. Of course, capacity is very important in terms of technology, in terms of the process the carbon trade. But yeah, Indonesia choose for doing learning by improvement. So we do we try to do all the option of carbon pricing instrument, but of course there are many room for improvement. So that's why we need the capacity building, knowledge and information exchange, and build the common understanding.
Thank you, Pat Dida. Learning and improving rather than learning by doing. I think I'm gonna quote that one next time. Yes, extremely important to be able to get around all the stakeholders. So I'm going to quickly, because we are very nearly at time, I'm just going to ask if my colleagues who I know are sitting there behind laptops have got a presentation ready to share on screen. If you could do that, please. Because what I'm going to just lastly show, which hopefully is now going to answer all the questions that you and all the challenges that you've raised and we've raised in both of the panels. So how is GGGI planning to address this? And I will show in 5 minutes flat how we are planning on doing this. And I have to say, I have been in Tokyo for a couple of days, so this was prepared for me, which is not very common, which means I have no idea which slides are going to come up. So you'll have to excuse me as I have a look at them. So if we can whisk the first slide, please. There we are. Okay, so this is about why we are planning on creating a facility called the Carbon Transaction Facility. Why? To address the challenge of the uneven playing field. What is the uneven playing field? There's a high participation burden, which, like the effects of climate change, tends to weigh more heavily on countries with smaller governments, smaller capacity, and less experience in carbon markets. Also, it's to help challenge where there is low confidence for approaching the market, where there is this knowledge exchange. So if we're going to learn and improve, how are you going to know when another country's done something that you want to learn from? Or do you have to do everything and learn everything yourself, which seems a little silly? And then the uneven participation in the transaction design itself. So how the pricing or the timing of a deal may be set up has historically been quite often the remit or been proposed by the buy side. Next slide. So what we have created is a multi-fund facility. That sounds like a very complicated word, but it's just a number of pots, if we describe it like that, which might make it sound a bit easier. So there's a big pot called Article 6 Readiness Facility, into which we will have multiple contributors. These contributors will have multiple purposes. Some of them will be ITMO buying countries. They will all be country governments. There's no private sector at the moment. So it will be buyers of ITMOs, but it may also be countries with overseas development aid, ODA, that want to concentrate on opening up markets without actually being a buyer themselves. So there will be multiple participants in that readiness facility. And that readiness facility is meant to answer things that you've raised exactly on this panel, like being flexible, fill in the gaps, don't expect it to be cookie cutter. Everybody having the capacity, not only in a very wide sense, but also in a more tailored sense, if there are particular project sectors that apply to only a few countries, mangroves, rice growing. You know, we don't need to take rice growing to a country that doesn't have rice as a main crop, or reduction of methane there. Out of that readiness facility, our two main aims are countries, both buyers and sellers, but quite strongly sellers, the GGGI member and partner countries will have had their capacity built. They will be feeling more empowered. They will feel more informed about what's going on in the markets. They will feel that they can confidently enter the market. And also project idea notes, or as we're calling them, mitigation action idea notes. And those can be picked up by one of multiple carbon trust funds. And these will be funds that have contributions from particular ITMO buyers, whether that is you've mentioned them all here today, Sweden, Norway, Singapore, could be Korea, could be others. And they will then say, oh, actually that matches with what I'm looking to buy. Here again, an evening up of the playing field, instead of the buyers approaching the sellers that they wish to trade with, this is the seller having access to multiple buyers and choosing which the seller wants to trade with, if there are multiple buyers interested. Next slide. So just back to the readiness a moment. The aim is to reach as many countries as we can with as much readiness support as we can. So we'll start from that sort of wide, if you think of it like a filter, so you start wider at the top on sharing written material. So this could be a trade and improve, it could be a do and improve. You can write a report on that, say, oh goodness, don't do it this way, we learned this lesson, or this was fantastic, we did this pilot and it really works and we're going to scale it up now. Then you go down to something that's a little more targeted, where you might be sitting several countries in a room, a bit like this, but maybe a little more intense than a panel, for a day or two to say, what are you doing? How far have you got? Where is your challenge? And sharing the knowledge. I'm always fascinated every time we get our member countries together with how much everyone enjoys talking and sharing knowledge on the experiences around, whether it's carbon trading or whether it's climate policy. It's always great to see that. And then right at the bottom, you might have that very bespoke, okay, you need help on your legislation or your decree or something else. Next slide. So then the idea is how we move from the readiness to the trust, to the multiple trust funds, is that we'll have these project idea notes coming out and we'll have what we call a matchmaking process. Now, if a buyer or someone who has contributed to a fund also has got a direct relationship with a country, but once that onward trade, just the MRV and management of that trade to be run through their trust fund and GGGI, they're able to bring those in as well. So this is, the idea is it goes from all the way from A to Z, from the preparation, from the learning, all the way to the trade completed and the ITMO delivered corresponding adjustment done. Next slide. And there we are. I think I got through that without actually getting one that I didn't recognize. So thank you very much for that, Benjamin. So that gives you a little idea as to, I think we are creating and that we're hoping we are currently speaking with potential contributors and hoping to be able to announce the first contributions before the end of the year. And with that, I am finished. And I don't know, Marsha, if I pass to you for a closing. Yeah, so it says in one piece of paper.
Yes, thank you, Vanilla, and thanks everybody for the great discussion. So there are actually not many more additional questions online. And what there was answered in your presentation, actually. So yeah, are there any questions in the room or anything else anyone would like to ask? All right. Yes, it is 7 o'clock here in Seoul, so we will give everyone a break and wrap the session here. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and day.